Hi, I'm Michelle Klein, member of the GSB Alumni Association Board, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this production.
Cambiar vidas,
Change lives.
change organizations,
Change
दुनिया में
organizations.
बदलाव.
Change the world.
If not you, then who? If not you, then who? You are sitting here on the precipice of leaving the GSB with the whole world in front of you, and you can do anything. And yet some of you are not sure what your next step is. Some of you are not sure if your job is the perfect fit. And some are wondering, what were these 2 years about? Am I any less confused than when I started? The point of today is to let you know that you are absolutely prepared for this next step, that you all have superpowers, you're all unique and talented, and you inspire me every single day. So we're going to talk about my life lessons, and I'm going to wrap it around stories. You know I love storytelling. So let's get started. Something you won't believe, because here I am, kind of a pushy New Yorker telling you all these things you should be doing, but I was the shyest kid. I hid behind my mom, and it would take a lot for me to speak up in class or put myself out there. I grew up with a twin brother, Adam. Yeah, we were dressed that way. I grew up with an older sister, Jane. A lot of my students know that she sends me beautiful clothes. They're called Jane-me-downs. And she protected me as well. But around age 9, my personality started to come, and I got a little sassy. I even made some questionable fashion choices. Siegelite, I know you're very good with fashion. I don't know what you'd think of my tartan cape here, but it definitely made me stand out. But through the years, I came out of my shell. I had these life experiences and these jobs, and I got my toolkit. And what I've learned is that everything you experience is something you can leverage. Even if it's a skill that's dormant and you haven't used it in a few years, you can unearth it and bring it out at the right moment. So here I am now in front of all of you, and I'm going to share some of my beliefs and my principles. And these are my principles to live by. I'm going to read it because I can't memorize them, but I'm going to go over today about leading with love. When sad or disappointed, help someone else. Compassion over aggression. Figure out how to connect to others. Showing faith in others leads to their success. Let people know who you are by telling your stories. Listen when people tell you who you are. Be accountable, own your words and actions. It's not what happens, it's how you deal with it. All my reputation management people know that I believe in that. And then, of course, create your own narrative. I must say that 100 times. And then finally, which I teach in executive presence, opt in and then figure it out. But don't hold yourself back out of fear. So here, Emily covered this all, so I don't really have to say anything, but I've been here 9 years. And I co-created a course, Reputation Management, with J.D. Schramm. That was my gateway class into here, to my drug addiction to the GSB. And then I created Project U and Strategic Pivoting in the 2 electives. So today, hopefully you will learn from my past, and hopefully it can help the future. My first lesson is disappointment can lead to something even better. When I was at camp, summer camp, New York City kids got sent away for 2 months to summer camp because their parents needed to get them out of the way. And I was auditioning for Godspell. I think I was about 9 years old, and the summer before I had been Wendy in Peter Pan, and I killed it. So I'm like, I'm a shoo-in for Godspell. And not only did I not get a role, but I didn't even get in the chorus. So I go back to my cabin and like sit on my bed, and I'm like feeling so sorry for myself and feeling like misunderstood. And my counselor comes over and she's like, Allison, the youngest girls in bunk 2 are putting on a play. Why don't you go help them? So I was like, okay. So I went down to bunk 2, and for the next 2 weeks, I was the director and the costumer and the person who practiced with them and the producer. And these kids put on a wonderful play. Through that, for some reason, I got Girl of the Week. And then eventually I got Color War Captain. And I had a reputation as being a leader at my summer camp. If I'd gotten into Godspell, yeah, I might have been good, but none of that would have happened, and the lesson wouldn't have been learned for me. I really believe this, that when you have difficult people in your life, it's a challenge, but it's how you handle it. My mom taught me that, first of all, you should lead with love. But she also told me that when someone is upset with you or angry or bullying, it's because they're coming from a place of hurt. Hurt people hurt people. She's like, try to think maybe they're going through a rough time. Maybe something's happening in their home life. Show compassion. So I'm sure many of you have been in a situation where fire meets fire. When people are coming at you, they want that interaction. They want to engage you in a way that can provoke them so they can let out all that anger and frustration. But I really believe that if you meet fire with a warm blanket and compassion and empathy, well, then there'll be a greater understanding and you can get things done. When you meet someone who's angry with compassion, say, you seem really upset. Can I help in any way? Or something's going on. What's going on with you? You'll see all of a sudden the whole body language just goes down and like, oh, this is so frustrating. And then you're like, how can I help? And all of a sudden, there's humanity. Now, so this is the takeaway. You can only control your actions. How many times you've said, if only they had said this, or they should have done this. And I always say, yeah, they should have, but they didn't. So how does that affect you? How do you want to show up? What's the leader that you want to be? How would you handle the situation? All you can do is show up the way you want to show up and role model it, and not let someone else's bad behavior affect you. Now, it'd be lovely if I took my own advice, but I didn't, and I had to learn the hard way. When I was at the Home Shopping Network, which was run by Barry Diller and Diane von Furstenberg, I came over from Good Morning America, and my job was to control the home department, all the products that had to do with garden and kitchen. And that's a whole other story because I don't cook and I don't garden, but I really am as Bert Alper says, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So anyway, I went over there to produce, and they matched you up with a producing partner. And they matched me up with this woman, Amy. Amy had her own reputation. She was known as difficult and sarcastic and kind of a malcontent. So when she first met me, she goes, Allison, she goes, I'm so glad I'm partnered with you. I hear you're really friendly. Everybody loves you. I hate people. So you're going to be my buffer. And I'm thinking, red flag. I'm like in so much trouble. But you know what? I'm like, I'm going to make this work. Maybe we can balance each other out. So after 2 weeks, our talent quit. And they said, Allison, you go on air. You sell products. And I was like, okay. And so Amy felt betrayed and abandoned by me. And she was so angry at me. And she would try to, not even passive-aggressively, she just tried to undermine me. She turned our whole team against me, and she made comments about me. You're all too young to know the movie All About Eve, but it's about a woman who'll do anything to get into the movies. So she would call me Eve. Anyway, I asked her if I could go to my husband's law school graduation. She says, no, you can't go. We need you. And she said, you're so lucky. I'm so understanding always. And then I did the wrong thing. I escalated, and I said, no, you've been a total bitch. Oh, God. First and only time I've used profanity. And oh, boy, it just, after that, she would talk in my ear doing live shows. It got so much worse. And all I realized is that moment of satisfaction, when I got to say what I really felt, it wasn't worth it. I should have been strategic. I should have figured out how to get what I want, and I didn't. And so that momentary feeling of saying those bad words and what you feel, it doesn't pay off. I lost all control, and it really blew up in my face. So my lesson for that is take control and power, and only I can take care of how I react to things. So you're not a pushover, though, if you do this. You're still a leader because you're going to show empathy. You're going to rely on facts to make your argument. You're going to come up with solutions. You're going to set boundaries, hopefully. And I don't know if anyone recognizes this gentleman. Probably Mary Spicer does, because we're colleagues. This was Joel Siegel from Good Morning America. He was a correspondent for movies. And when I was an intern at GMA, he used to take me to free screenings, because I was such an eager intern. And I loved him. When I started working right out of college, for some reason, he likes to haze the new people. And he came and he yelled at me in front of a whole bunch of people. And I was so humiliated. But I was also really hurt because I really admired him. But I didn't say anything. But the next day we were at the mailboxes, because in those days that's how we communicated, through mailboxes. And he comes up and he's like, hey, Allison. And I'm like, hi, Joel. I said, Joel, I am so upset with how you talked to me yesterday. First of all, it was very unprofessional. And second of all, it wasn't warranted. And I really like you. And I admire you, and I love working with you, but I can't talk to you right now because of what you did to me yesterday. You could have blown him over. I was 21. And but I had boundaries, and I knew if I didn't set a precedent, right, he might do it again. And he said, Allison, I'm so sorry. He talked like that, Allison. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And you know what? He never did it again, and we were very close. So there's something, what I'm trying to say is that the exception is if abuse is consistent, and then you have to report it. But otherwise, you can tell anybody anything as long as you say it in a nice way, as long as you say it in a calm way. So my next tip is connect to others on a human level. When I was at Penn, my first year I took psychology. It was between psychology and TV, by the way, just so you know. And there was this study called the bystander effect. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's where people, if it's a group of people and someone's screaming for help, no one does anything. There was a very big case called the Kitty Genovese case where a woman was stabbed in a courtyard and screamed and no one came out to help her. But what the study said is if you can single one person out and connect to them as a human being, it's much more likely that they will help you. So don't scream like fire on a train, like go up to someone and say, I need your help. So I remembered this, and I had an experience. I was in London my junior year. I was studying abroad. And because I was a city girl, I loved taking the tube. I thought it was much better than the New York City subway. And I was coming back from the library, and it was 11:30 at night. And I got out on the platform, and it didn't occur to me how late it was. And it was deserted. And I get out, and a group of young men who were obviously drunk came out of a carriage a few down. And they see me and they start screaming at me and heckling me. Hey, Miss America! Hey, Miss America! And my heart stopped. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be in a bad situation. Why didn't I anticipate this? And I remembered this. And I started walking towards them. And I said, hey, how'd you know I was American? Was it my down jacket and sneakers that gave it away? And then I went right up to the guy who was obviously the leader. And I said, hey, can you do me a favor? I need someone to walk me home. It's late, and you guys look like you can protect me. Would you walk me home? And they said, sure. And I put my hand through this arm of this guy, and I'm like, so where are you guys going? It looks like you're celebrating. And my heart was like, oops, my heart was pounding. And they became my brothers, and they walked me home. Now, it was risky, and I'm not saying that'll work, but that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about connecting and humanizing and not escalating a situation that could have gone a different way. I really believe that eye contact, the humanity that people share, can help you in a sticky situation. All right, strange picture, right? There's definitely a story about this. My next tip, show faith in others. I'm at Good Morning America. That gentleman over there is Ron Reagan Jr., President Reagan's son, and he was a correspondent for GMA. And we had to do this really boring piece on how the lights are changed for the Empire State Building. And so every holiday they change it, and we were going to interview the inventor of the lights and the billboards in New York. And we were like, this is the most boring piece that we're stuck. So Ron has this great idea. He goes, I've got a great idea. It's the Empire State Building. You'll be Fay Wray, and we'll get someone in a monkey suit, and in every shot, there'll be King Kong chasing you or carrying you while you're flailing, and it'll be a running joke. And we're like, brilliant, hysterical. So I had this intern, Matt, had a little crush on me, and I threw him a bone. I'm like, Matt, would you like to be in a monkey suit for the shoot? And he's like, yes, please. So we go to the Empire State Building. We're on the 88th floor on the balcony. Ron's inside with this really boring, this nice older man interviewing him. And I'm in Matt's arms with my arms around his neck. And I'm waiting for the director to say, action. And then I do something I shouldn't have done. I said, Matt, whatever you do, don't drop me. And they go, action, and he takes one step, trips, falls, drops me on my back, and falls on top of me. Monkey cement sandwich, not good. I had to do the take 42 more times with a bad back. What I did is I made this poor guy nervous. I didn't show faith in him, right? If I had just said, this is going to be fun, let's do it. And I've learned through my own life that when someone shows doubt to me, I doubt myself. So as a leader, I try to be empowering, and I try to say, you can do this. I believe in you. It's the best gift you can give to somebody. Because if they think you doubt them, they're going to doubt themselves, and they're not going to perform to their best ability. If you treat me like an idiot, I'm going to act like one. By the way, Matt got me a nice bag of kiwis to apologize. I really liked kiwis back then. So storytelling, how many by show of hands know that I love storytelling? Yeah, we all know this. Storytelling is a weapon that I want you all to use in your life, okay? And my storytelling skills started early, and I've really thought about why it's such a passion for me. And there are proof points along the way. One, I was a very avid reader growing up. I used to read a book a night, and for me, it taught me about dialogues and emotions and interactions with people. I mean, I think that's why I like psychology too. But how everything worked together. And I also was able to visualize what things look like. I always preferred books to movies. And then my mother, as crazy as it is, in New York City, we'd walk, and if a movie had already started, my mom would take my brother and I in halfway through. I know, child abuse, right? Terrible. And we'd sit in the back row, and for an hour, I'd have to figure out what the heck is going on, right? And then we'd sit, when the movie was over, everyone would leave. They only had 5-minute intermissions in those days, in the olden days when they had horse and carriage. And we'd stay, and I'd watch the first hour of the movie and think, oh, did I get that right? So what this taught me is I had to figure out the plot, draw inferences, look for verbal and visual cues. It was pretty much strategic communication, right, as a youngster. And then I eavesdrop. I'm sorry if you ever see me. I'm a big eavesdropper. I like to go and read and eat, but I will be listening in, and I will be trying to figure out, are you on a date? Are you fighting? And I'm going to watch your body language and see, does that person seem happy or not? So yes, I do it, and if you see me at Koopa, I am probably eavesdropping on you. And then, okay, we all know this, right? I'm a pop culture fanatic. I was fated. My mother named me after Allison Mackenzie from the first soap opera ever on TV called Peyton Place. So I was forced to be in pop culture and media. And that Mia Farrow, she was a great actress at that point. And then we know I have some questionable reading material, but during my TV years, I was paid to read these magazines. I had to look for gossip and stories. And it was important for me to know who's doing what with whom. Don't judge. And then I have an interesting talent where I have read every issue of People magazine since its inception. I'm really good at table talk, and I'm a lifeline for a lot of people on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So my other storytelling technique is I love movies, and this was my favorite movie growing up, and my best friend, Jamie, at the time had never seen it, so I forced her to watch it at home one night on cable, and then the cable went out. So I started acting it out for her and doing all the dialogue, because I must have seen it 20 times. Then the cable came back on, and I was way ahead of where the movie was. So we started to watch it again, and she looks at me and she goes, "You are a freak." She's like, "I feel like I've seen this movie already. It's crazy, you know every line." So what it showed was my recall of dialogue, my ability to act out scenes, visual communication, and to change my voice for each character, some vocal variety thrown in. So there you go again. Strategic communication. When you tell a story, this is what you're telling people. I want you to know who I am. I want you to know why I care about what I care about and why I do what I do. And I want you to know my strengths, but also my quirks. And I want you to know what makes me different from everybody else out there, maybe through my life experience, maybe through my challenges. And my story is going to prove my credibility to you. Even though I did something that makes no sense 10 years ago, I learned something from it. All right, where's Erin? Raise your hand. Okay, Erin knows this story. Erin was born the year of the Missouri floods. And I told this story in strategic communication. She's like, "Allison, that resonates because I was born." I'm like, "This story's for you, Erin." So for those of you who haven't heard it, Good Morning America sent me to the Missouri floods. And this wasn't my favorite job, was to book live guests during big events like floods. But my first day I was in the helicopter, and I'm with the crew, and we're taking pictures looking just like this, of just the tops of houses on water. And it was just a very horrifying experience to go over all this water. And then my job was to go to the Red Cross shelter, find a family, and convince them to come with our crew back to their house to rescue pets or personal belongings. So I went to the Red Cross shelter. I talked to the head of the fire department. I got a boat. And then I had to find a family. And there was this man standing against a wall, and his family was sitting on the ground next to him. And I went over to him and I said, "Hi, I'm from Good Morning America. I have a crew and we have a boat. Would you like to go back to your house and maybe rescue some of your personal items?" Oh well, he started to scream at me. He said, "How dare you? You want to exploit me at the worst time in my life for national TV? I've lost everything. I'm homeless. You're going to go home in 3 days to your warm house. But I'm homeless." And I just let him go on and on. And when he was done, I put my hand on his arm and I said, "I am so sorry. Please accept my apology if I've made this any worse for you. I wish you luck. God bless you." And I walked away. And about a minute later, I feel this tap on my shoulder, and it's the man. And he's like, "So how would it work with the boat and the crew?" And so my lesson, which a lot of my class has heard already, is that storytelling goes both ways. He needed to tell me his story, and I needed to listen. He needed to get it off his chest and be heard, and I needed to understand where he was coming from. And when that trust was built, then he wanted to do it. And by the way, he went back, and it was a great experience for him. And he did rescue personal belongings. And the executive producer called me and said that was a great segment. But that wasn't the point. And I always think back to this as not doing the right thing. So if I were to do it now, or even a few years after that, because I think I was only about 22 or 23 at the time, I would have said, "Hi, I'm Allison Kluger. I'm from Good Morning America. I am so sorry for what you're going through. I don't know if this will help you at all, but I have a boat and a crew. Would you like to try to get something from your house? And would you like to show America what is going on here so we can get more support?" That is how I would have approached it. But sometimes you have to fumble, right, to learn the right way to do something. And I always try to say I never make the same mistake twice, hopefully. So it was a big learning lesson. Bob Marcus, who guests in Reputation Management, says, "If I don't know how you've struggled, how can I connect to you?" So again, it's that compassion. It's asking people questions. Why are you upset? What can I do? That's where the connection comes in. So many of you know I teach with Tyra, and we had Gary Vaynerchuk come in to talk about social media and where to put your story. And the reassuring news from Gary was that you don't have to use social media. But if you are, pick a platform that works for you, whether it's Instagram and it's visual, or Facebook, or whether you're in service of somebody and you want to promote them. But he said if you're going to do it, stick with it and be on top of it. But it's very important for you to know where to take your story and how to broadcast it. You also need to know how long to tell your story. So for some people, just 30 seconds might be enough of your narrative, just the high points, or a minute and a half, or 3 minutes, or sometimes 5 minutes. But if you don't know your audience and you tell a really long story, you're going to lose them and they're going to be frustrated. So this is a really important point. In my classes, Personal Branding and Strategic Pivoting, I make sure that my last assignment is that my students deliver a minute and a half narrative. For personal branding, it's who I am, what I've done, and why I'm going to move into this personal brand, and how it's going to be of service to you. Strategic pivoting is what I've done, who I am, why I want to pivot, and how it will benefit you. Very similar. But the exercise is, if you can tell your narrative in a minute and a half, someone else can take that story and carry it somewhere else where someone can be of service to you and can create a new opportunity. So this project was done in a TV station before COVID, and they'd go on live television and have to do this narrative, and it was broadcast. So would you like to hear? Let's hear some narratives. I know some of my students have seen this, but it's worth seeing it again. So this is from Project U.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Nancy, and I love to live life out loud. From the necklaces I love to rock, to the melanin I proudly wear on my skin, color and vibrancy is such a huge part of who I am. But it hasn't always been that way. I was born with a disability in my arm and my spinal cord called Klumpke's palsy. Before I even knew my name, doctors put limits on what I could achieve when they told my parents I could never live independently. But I refused to believe that, and I rebelled. I saw how vibrant I could be And I grew a passion for helping other people see their own vibrancy through photography. Photography has shown me that I'm so much bigger than this body, and it's allowed me to connect with people in deep and intimate ways. I built my company, Allison & Co., to share the stories of women of color. It's been my absolute honor to share their vibrancy with the world. And it's my big, hairy, scary dream to take this company from being about photography to a lifestyle brand. Think cookware and interior design, but designed with the needs and wants of women of color in mind. I want to help other women expose their true color in every aspect of their lives.
Every time I see this, I'm moved. You know so much about Nancy now. You know she had a challenge. You know she loves photography. You know she wants to create a lifestyle brand. And there's enough there that you could seriously just go and talk about Nancy to someone else and promote her. She also was the embodiment of what she said, with the beautiful, colorful necklace she was wearing. When she finished this class, she took a black and white picture of everyone in our class and gave it to us. And she took that one to me. It's one of my favorite headshots, because of course my hair looks awesome.
I'm just kidding. I really just always wanted to say that. Good evening, coaches. My name is Ross Pomerantz, and I'm in the process of pivoting from enterprise sales into something far more disappointing to my parents. Comedy writing. Last week I did a poll for 20 of my closest friends and family, and I asked them what they thought my greatest strength was. 20 out of 20 said humor. Now, if that wasn't enough, 10 years ago, I was voted the 5th funniest person in my family, behind my brother, my dad, my sister's stuffed animal Chester, and our blind pet parakeet. So yes, I have been destined for comedic greatness for a long time now. The other strength that popped up was discipline, which undoubtedly comes from my background playing baseball, where my only regret was that I didn't get a chance to strike that man out. Now, between humor and discipline, I've been put in a very unique position. My pilot started 7 years ago when I started making comedy videos online. I created an alter ego, a persona called Corporate Bro, a parody on Silicon Valley's sales life, a parody on my life. Fast forward to today, I have nearly 120,000 fans. I've gotten millions of views across all social media platforms, and I even get invited to go speak at tech companies, which is utterly ridiculous. Now, that isn't where it ends, I don't think. The last year and a half I spent writing a pilot TV show with my younger brother, which frankly I think is our best work, which is rare for me to say because frankly I've hated everything I've ever done. So, Alex, if you know anyone at WME, Allison, you know anyone in the TV industry at all, or Jenny, you know someone at Google TV, I would be honored to share it with them. So I'm very excited to take my launch because I have absolutely no idea where I'm going to land. Thank you.
Fabulous, right? Do you know a lot about Ross? Did he not role model the humor? I mean, you heard we were a natural laugh track. Alex and the author, Jenny from Pivot, and I were hysterical. There was so much in there. It was a tad too long, but he could shorten it. But the point was you understood what the building steps were to this pivot and his credibility. And he really knows his narrative, and he's told me he's used it in a lot of different forms. So people tell you who you are. I was at Penn my freshman year in creative writing. I love creative writing, but my teacher, Biff Russ, hated me. And I was always like the goody two-shoes in English because I'm not a math student, as we all know. And, but she hated my writing, and I'd always get low grades. And finally, I found out why. And she said, Allison, you have very complex thoughts, but you write like People magazine. I'm not kidding. I had a People magazine in my backpack at that time, but I did not whip it out. And I was humiliated. I felt that I was stupid. I felt that I was going to fail, and that she didn't appreciate anything I wrote. But she told me what my brand was at a very young age. Messaging for the masses. Taking complex thoughts and funneling them so that it's a very top-line message. And that is what you do in TV. And that is what you do in coaching, and that's when you do in education. So Biff did me a favor. I just didn't listen hard enough, and I was too young to appreciate that wisdom. But I go back to it a lot and think, wow, I think my superpower showed up really early. So think about what someone says about you. you're so good at this, or I wish I could do this the way you did it. Whatever it is, think about what people tell you, because they can see how you land on them. And they might be able to encourage you in ways you can't do for yourself. So this is my son, Logan. He was about 8 in this picture. And this story is really about when he was 4. Have you heard of Bing Nursery School? Bing here at Stanford? OK. So getting my sons into Bing was harder than getting into the GSB. I'm not kidding. I wrote a kick-ass letter. And I got them in because I really felt it would be the best school for them. And I was at orientation, and when they were talking about the half-acre of playroom and play and everything they talked about, and I was almost crying, thinking, oh my God, I'm so happy my son is here. This is such a privilege. So about 2 weeks into it, I went to drop Logan off, and the head teacher, Sarah, who's really tall in English, pulled me over. She goes, Allison, Logan learned a new word. And I'm like, great, let's hear the brilliance. She goes, it's fuck. So I go pale, and I'm like, uh-huh. And she goes, do you have any idea where he may have heard that word? So I say, well, I'm sure it's from me. I said, where else would he hear it? I said, I don't know when and where, but it was probably me. She's like, it's okay. Other kids curse, but we just don't want you to think they learned it here. And don't worry about it. And I said, no problem. And I went back to my car and cried. I'm like, I'm in the best school, and now they think I'm the worst mom. My kid's cursing up a storm. So I go to pick him up later on, and Sarah calls me over. Allison, did you go to your car and cry? I said, yeah, I did. And she's like, Allison. She says, that's why we love you, because you're the only parent who has ever admitted it was them. This happens all the time. She says, we trust you, you're so endearing. And we became so close. And I ended up doing the auction at Bing and the annual fun. But that was where my trust was built. And Sarah's still a dear friend. So the more transparent you are, the more people trust you. We know this from the trust radar in reputation management. There's shame in hiding the truth. It's much bigger burden on you to try to hide who you are and what you've done. Own it. Your candor will inspire others to also be honest. All right, don't be afraid to share your truth. I was at QUALTRICS a few years ago before COVID, and I got to see 3 of my heroes, Oprah, and Sir Richard Branson and Obama. And then this gentleman came out to speak. His name was Billy McDermott, CEO of SAP. I didn't know who he was. I was in an audience of 11,000 people, so I'm sure I wasn't alone. But he came out, very good-looking guy, salt and pepper hair, but wearing sunglasses. And he sat down in this dark auditorium and started talking to Andy, the moderator. And all I could think of is, like, why is he wearing sunglasses? Like, is he too cool for us? Is he Jack Nicholson? Like, what is he trying to say? Because I'm always looking at signals. And I'm so distracted by his glasses that I do something I rarely do, which is I pulled up my phone, which no one should ever do when they're in an auditorium. And I look at my phone, and I look him up. And sure enough, he's had an accident. He was walking down the stairs, and he tripped. And he was holding a glass, and it shattered, and a shard of glass went into his eye. And he had all these surgeries. So what I was thinking was, if I had coached him, I would have said, look, Billy, you've got to know your audience. You have 11,000 people. 10% won't know who you are, and they're going to make assumptions. So before you start talking, you say, hey, I just want to let you know, I had some surgeries on my eye. I need to wear glasses. I'm not giving you any shade. And then you go on. And then all of a sudden, you feel empathy. You feel closer. You feel connected. And you're not distracted from the reason he's actually there. So the lesson is, say who you are. Share your experiences. Be authentic. And don't make excuses. Don't be embarrassed for who you are. Your stories tell a tale, and they help people connect to you. So why should you create a narrative? I know you've heard me say this many times. It's more interesting to start with a story. People can carry your story. It helps you connect, and it's you at your most authentic. What makes you stand out in a crowd? You're all brilliant here. What makes you stand out? Each of you has something that makes you stand out. So you have to figure out your differentiating factor, your secret sauce is what I like to call it, your zone of genius. What do people, again, tell you about yourself? All of you who've done the P-RAP, right? Oh my God, I apologize to everyone who had to take the surveys. But you learned, what do people say about you? When you figure out your secret sauce and superpower, you need to leverage it. So number 9, it's not what happens, it's how you deal with it. Reputation management started that way. It is my mantra. It will probably go on my gravestone. Shit happens. It's going to happen. How are you dealing with it? How you deal with it says way more about you than what actually happened. So what if you have a reputation for being unapproachable, sarcastic, arrogant, late, blaming others, being too quiet and not speaking up, not joining in activities? Well, you can behave your way to a new reputation. This is from Joel Peterson when he guested in my class. But an example for you is, let's say you know someone, you're someone who is habitually late. And it's kind of funny and it's quirky and people think, oh, this is this person. But what it's saying is, your time isn't as valuable as my time is. I don't respect your time. And after a while, it's not cute anymore. So what I said to someone is, I said, you can change this reputation by being consistently early. So get to the next meeting early. And everyone's going to say, oh, what are you doing here early? You're always late. And you'll say, no, I'm going to be early from now. And they're like, OK. Then you show up at the next meeting and you're early. You're like, oh, you're still doing the early thing, huh? And you'll say, yep, still doing the early thing. And then you keep showing up early and early. And all of a sudden, that old reputation of being late has now been put to bed. And you don't even have a reputation for it anymore. What I love about this example is you are not stuck in a reputation. You can always be fluid and tweak something that you think you could do better, and then consistently show up. And you will create that new reputation. I really believe in choosing to engage in difficult conversations. I think many of us would rather sweep it under the rug or hope it passes by. But from my experience, people hold on to these things, and that becomes a fixed bias about you. And so have those hard conversations, because I don't think you want to leave things unsaid. And especially as you are getting ready to leave here, if there's anybody who you feel you have a misunderstanding with, and you think, oh, it's too late to confront that, it's not. I called up Amy, that producer from the Home Shopping Network, last year, after not speaking to her for over 20 years, and said, can we talk about what happened? And we talked about it, and she apologized to me. And it was a hard conversation that I avoided for a very long time, but it really healed me. It also teaches you how to verbalize complex thoughts. You should be able to have difficult conversations at work and in your personal life, and not be intimidated by the emotions involved. It teaches you how to advocate for yourself. I was really hurt by this, but I want to hear what you were thinking. It also creates trust, because people will know that you're an honest, forthright person. And it helps you control your own narrative. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I think I said this earlier. You can say anything to anyone if you say it in a way that is kind, compassionate, and straightforward and candid. I do believe you can spin anything into a positive. And so let's say you got fired and you're embarrassed and you don't want to talk about this. Well, you have two ways of doing it. One, you can say, this job was terrible. Like someone who's interviewing you and says, why were you only there for 6 months? You say, well, I was promised this and it never happened and they were terrible. What does that say about you? How about you say, you know what, when I went to that job, I thought I was going to be doing this and this. And it didn't work out that way. But in the 6 months I was there, I learned this, this, and this. And now I'm even more prepared to be here with you. So how you message something tells people about you. But you can put a positive spin on anything, even if it's not the greatest experience. I've had jobs that I had to squeeze into, round peg into a square hole. And that doesn't really make sense. Square hole. But you know what? I would always try to find one thing of value. Maybe meeting a new person or a mentor or a new skill. So again, we're back to, if not you, then who? And I want you to opt in and figure it out, okay? All of us have opportunities that are presented to us, but many times we say, it's not us, I'm not ready for that. And that's because it's scary to opt in, or we're feeling lost in life and we don't want to take anything new on, or we're doing what we're doing to make others happy, but we're not thinking about what we really want. We're afraid to take a risk, we're not feeling authentic, and we have imposter syndrome. But I'm going to remind you that when you're asked to opt in to do something, the deliverable is never 5 minutes later. So if someone says, I want you to do this project, or I want you to get this promotion, or I want you to go on this offsite, and you're like, just think, okay, say yes, thank you, and then you go break it down. And you can research it, ask questions, fill in the knowledge gaps. But you are all sitting here, the most capable human beings. You're here because you know how to do this. So just take those opportunities when they come. Don't get all that negative self-talk in your head and say, you know what, I'll figure it out. I'm smart enough to figure it out. So use your origin story to create your narrative. You're all thinking, oh, what's my narrative? Well, you go back to your origin story. A lot of you know this. Forgive me if this is going to be redundant. I'm going to go through it quickly, but some of you don't know it. So using my own experience, I went to Penn. I interned at TV stations. I started at Good Morning America 3 days later. I worked there 8 years. I went to the shopping network. I got on air. I sold barbecues. And after that, I went into the control room, and I led the whole show, which I really loved. And then I was wooed away to another shopping network where I was the executive producer, 16 hours of live television. I was the face of the network. I created shows. I hired and fired. And then this was me doing a promo. Let's see.
Hi, I'm Allison Kluger, your host for Designer's Corner here at GSN. We get New York City designers to bring in their jewelry, and all the jewelry is like a piece of art. Each one is handcrafted with semi-precious stones, unique designs, and you can't find it anywhere else. You don't have to wander around the streets downtown looking for that very special piece of jewelry. We're going to bring it to you. We're going to bring you the piece of jewelry that's beautiful, interesting, that you can't find anywhere else with a price that you can afford. So be sure to catch me here at GSN, the Smart Shoppers channel.
Right? Yeah. Someone had to do it, right? And you don't want to wander around looking for that very special piece of jewelry. Let me do it for you. Anyway, then I was wooed over by The View. Barbara Walters was my idol. I had known her when I was an intern, and I always wanted to work with her. I know that she's old, and you probably don't know her, but she was a pioneer, and it was like the thrill of my life. And then my husband went to the GSB, and I had to move to here and be an SO or an SOB. And I had to support us and go into, I started a .com for women. I was a .com disaster. Open TV snapped me up. I was an executive producer there. Then when I finished, I did a year with Al Gore, and I helped him set up Current TV. I took that job just to work with him, not for the money, because believe me, there was no money. And then, after 9 in vitros and 3 years of trying, I had trouble and more trouble. And I took 7 years off to raise them. And I did start my own media consulting business, but it was far and few between the amount of times I actually worked, because I was the sole caretaker. My husband was starting up companies. And then I came to this place, which is a very trite photo, but it really says what I felt. And a lot of you might be there right now, or in 10 years you might be there. And I just had to say, what's my narrative, right? So I figured these are the things I'm really good at. And no matter where I go and what I do, I'm going to bring this to it. So don't be afraid to repackage yourself. There are times you're going to be pivoting. There are times you're going to recreate yourself. But everything you need is there. You just have to cherry pick it out. So here's the exercise that I teach in Project U in strategic pivoting. So again, many of you know it, but for those who don't, it's called cake and icing. I visualize this exercise from this book. And cake is what you really do well. It's your rational value. It's your functional skills. Your icing is what people say about you and how they describe you. And together they make your strong brand, but they also enable you to tell your story. So now, with all those jobs I told you about listed up here, what I do is I write down my cake underneath each one. What are the talents? What's my functional benefits I can do? And then you see what keeps popping up. Well, I always create content. I'm innovative. Oops. I'm problem solving. I coach talent. And I'm an expert at messaging. Look how many times that pops up in my weird timeline, right? And then my icing. This is what people would say about me. And if you don't know those words, you ask your friends. Do a survey. I really recommend surveys. And so these are the things that I also deliver, what people think. Now, if I were to create a narrative, I might go to each one of these steps and pick out an anecdote or a story under each one that shows my skills, that proves my credibility, that shows a failure and a triumph. And that is how you can curate stories for your narrative. So present the solution, not the suggestion. I see I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to be super fast. How many people know the Tyra story before I go into it? Show of hands. OK, I have to tell it then. I'm going to be really quick. Tyra came here at CEMEX. I was in the front row. I watched all her shows. And she talked about personal branding. And she was so amazing and talked about her roles changing. And I'm sitting here going, I got to teach with her. And I forced my way backstage with no permission. And I have a 30-second narrative. And I say, hi, Tyra. I'm Allison Kluger. I teach here. I was a TV producer at The View and Good Morning America. And I know you've been on both shows. I want to teach a course with you on personal branding, a compressed course. What do you think? And she was like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, I have a great idea. And I said, I learned more from you in 1 hour. And she's like, OK. And she gives me her card, and we make an appointment for a week later. In that week, I go back, and I start creating the whole course, all 6 classes. What are the textbooks that I want to read? Who are going to be the guests? What's every segment about? I'm going to stream it live on Facebook to be differentiated. I'm going to come out of a live TV station for the final project. We'll do visual branding. And I put it all together with all the compressed course dates that were available, and then I talked to her again for a few hours. And I'm like, so here's the outline. What do you want to do? And she was amazing. She's like, oh, I can do this, and I can do that, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like the most brilliant marketer I have ever met. And she made it easy and said, OK, this is all great. And I said, give me the 2 weeks you can do, and you have to be here every day. And she's like, OK. And give me a backup. She goes, OK. Then I went and redid the whole proposal, and then I anticipated what all the pushback would be from the dean. And then I thought about how I'm going to handle all that. And then I went to the assistant dean of the business school. And I said, I want to teach a course with Tyra Banks. She's a businesswoman. Here's her proof. This is the course. This is how it's going to benefit our students. This is how it's going to be different from all the other courses. These are the takeaways. These are our textbooks. These are our guests. And he asked me every question I anticipated, starting with Tyra's not our brand. I don't think she's the right person. I'm like, oh, she is. And he said, yes. So the lesson here is, did I already say? No, oh, there she is. There she is. I'm going to go back quickly. Present the solution, not the suggestion. And the reason I say this is that if I had gone the day after Tyra was here and went to the assistant dean and said, I think I want to teach with Tyra. I have this idea. He would have said, no, absolutely not. And I would have been dead in the water. And that would have been it for me. So if you want to create change for yourself, don't complain about things. Don't identify the problems. Create the solutions. Just go to an interview and say, I've looked at your website and you're missing this, and I'd love to take over. And I want to be in charge, and this is the budget. But this is just a tip for those of you who aren't as bold or need more time or introverted. But it's worked for me a lot, and it's probably my #1 tip. And I did it with Alex. I created the course ahead of time. Alex was available to guest speak. I wasn't sure they'd let him. But the course now exists, and that's what I did. That's my tip. So I am telling you to be authentic, and I'm telling you all these things you need to do that might push you out of your comfort zone, right? So finally, my last story is I was crying at Good Morning America. I was about 2 months in. I was almost 21. And this woman, Sonia Selby-Wright, an English producer, I was scared of her too, she pulled me in her office and she shut the door and she said, Allison, I don't ever want to see you crying. Do you know why? And I was like, uh-huh. And intuitively I knew why, but I knew she was going to tell me. And she says, because you're young, you're female, and you're attractive, and no one is going to trust you, no one is going to give you responsibility, and no one is going to think you're reliable. She goes, if you're having a bad day, you come in my office and you can close the door. But if someone says to you, how are you? You say, I'm great. Do you understand? And I said, yes. And she goes, now get out of here. And so she threw me out of the office, and of course, what did I want to do? Cry. But I didn't. But this was an epiphany for me. And this is how I became the leader I want to be. I wanted to be reliable. I wanted to be respected. I wanted to be given the hard work. And so I became unflappable. And they'd say, go to Allison, she can take care of it. Go to Allison, she's really easy to work with. Go to Allison, she's a problem solver. And then I went to jobs that I was on air and in the control room where anything could go wrong. So by showing up every day the way I wanted to show up is how I created the reputation and how I became the leader I want to be. Even though I was a very shy kid, and obviously I cry a lot. I still do, but that's how I showed my fear. So act like the leader you want to be, and it becomes authentic. Everyone can do it. You're not cheating yourself out of your true personality. These are the leaders who I want to be like. Barbara Walters for her work ethic, Oprah for transparency, Obama for integrity and empathy, Michelle Obama, inspirational and powerful, and then of course Ruth Bader Ginsburg for breaking barriers. Those were my North Stars. Figure out who yours are. So what are my takeaways for today? Lead with love, compassion over aggression, when down, do for others. Storytelling is a secret weapon. Differentiate yourself. Choose to engage in those hard conversations. Spin it into a positive. Present the solution, not the suggestion. Opt in and figure it out later. And act like the leader you want to be. Because if not you, then who? Thank you. Kenny! Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Allison. I think we have time for 1 or 2 quick questions, and then you can probably catch Allison outside for any follow-up.
I'm excited, not nervous for those questions I don't know. Who's got a question to stump me? Yes.
The mic is actually right behind you if you want, in the cup holder.
Oh, how convenient. Did you plant that person?
Hello. Okay. Hi, Allison. Thank you so much. So I think one of the greatest gifts from coming to the GSB is just the platform it gives us to, share a message or just a cause that we really care about. I love to hear how you think about when you choose to step in and out of the public eye and how you manage that. And also to that, how you stay authentic when so much of what we're pitching is sometimes to our loved ones and to our masses and sometimes feels inconsistent. Like, how do we close that gap?
Thank you for that question. I don't always choose. Sometimes I'm chosen, and then I have to opt in. And so I would say that I've had imposter syndrome probably my entire first 45 years of my life. I'm only 30, so I don't really know how that math works. But many times I've been tapped on the shoulder to do something, or someone's come to me and said, Allison, we want you to be on air. And I will battle with the fear, and I'll force myself to do it. And by the way, the reality is never as scary as what you think it is. We build it up in our heads. So the outward-facing me is just from challenging myself. When I started teaching here, I had another epiphany, and my epiphany is I'm going to say yes to everything. At this point in my career, I know what I'm good at. I worked really hard to create a course here, and if I can't do it, I'm going to say I can't do it, or I'm going to find someone who can. So in being authentic about it, I just am very clear of what I'm not good at. We all know I'm not going to do accounting and budgeting, but I know what I'm really good at, and I lean into it. I hope that answers your question. Yes?
Oh, Chris is right behind you. Perfect.
Hi. It's good to
Hi,
see
Miriam.
you. Hi.
Hey, you made it.
It was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. My question's about your slides on transparency and being upfront with people. I'm just wondering, is that always the case, or has there been a time where it's better to not speak up or say something on your mind in a certain situation?
You know, I've grown into that as well, and thank you for that great question, Miriam. I'm a great believer that the more you are transparent or have radical candor, as people in reputation management know, the gift you're giving people, they don't have to work so hard to figure you out. And I've always said, like, some of my students are actually shy or introverted, and yet when they did the reputation survey, people would say, you seem arrogant or aloof, or you don't care about me. And I say that's because you're shy and you're quiet, but people are making assumptions about you because they just want to be friends with you and they think you're rejecting them. So sometimes it's good to say, you know, I'm not the most social person, but I'm really happy to be here. But front load the information you want, just like Billy McDermott. There are different shades of transparency. If it's going to diminish your power in a job, then I might find a better way to say something. But I always believe that eventually the truth outs. And if you're working so hard to be someone you're not, it's going to be exhausting. And I think ultimately we all want to be accepted and appreciated for who we truly are and what we bring to the table. And for the things we feel insecure about, we can ask for help. But if you don't broadcast and say, you know what, I'm not so good with this, I need some help. Everyone wants to help you. So I hope that answered your question. I think that transparency is a personal thing, but I'm a pretty open book, and it's worked well for me, except when I called Amy a bitch. That was not good, but I learned from that. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Allison.
Thank you all. I love you all.